Greetings, everyone. This is Kevon Jones, and I really want to welcome all of you from across the galaxy to the Kevon Jones Show. And today, we're going to be talking about career counseling, career opportunities, and really try to help everyone out here in the grim darkness of the far future because it really seems like there's a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of people who are really, really unhappy with their careers. I have a bit of research here, a little bit of research. Don't worry, I won't bore you too much. But it says that 99.9% of citizens in the Imperium do not find their occupations to be satisfying. Um, I mean, if you can even go deeper than that. Even great champions of humanity, uh, the Space Marines. Research that we have here shows that about 50% of them end up succumbing to the ruinous powers. Half the legions fell, and if at any given time there are roughly equal numbers of excuse me, of loyalist and chaos space marines. So even in the highest echelons of imperial society, there's some deep dissatisfaction with the work that people have, that people are doing. And I think in large part, this is due to a severe lack of career counseling resources in the Imperium. So, in the Tau Empire, in accordance with the precepts laid out in the greater good, we provide counseling and guidance to member species, whether they be Tau, Guevesa, Vespid, or Kroot, and we really want to work to help them find a suitable employment match, whether that's helping people or whether it's being quasi cannibalistic mercenaries. Everyone has a place in the greater good. So I encourage all beings who are dissatisfied with the current state of employment to call in and voice their concerns. And I want to make this clear. Uh, how things work here on the Kevon Jones Show. Uh, if you are listening and you want to contribute, uh, you can certainly call in, and we kind of listen to the chatter on the Vox network. But if you would like to call in and have your question addressed directly, we would ask that you provide a small donation, and then we will put you live on the air, and I will do my very best to address your concerns regarding your career opportunities. So we don't have to. We have a couple people who are here, um, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna discuss. Um, there's a theory out there that describes roughly six different work personality types and six different work environments. So the first category is what's called realistic. And realistic involves physical labor, mechanical work, repair, maintaining sewage systems, working in factorums would count as these sort of things. And this is the employment environment that the vast majority of the Imperium, they work in environments such as these. Next, we have investigative. These are scientific pursuits, problem solving, analytical thinking, kind of an intellectual pursuit, and these occupations are essentially non-existent in the Imperium. Um, there's they're pretty much non-existent in the Imperium. Uh, they have sort of been replaced by religious observances that have replaced the functionality of research science and things like that. Um, there's artistic. people who want to do creative work, create works of art, perhaps write fiction, different things like that. This is also absent in the Imperium, except for religious artwork. So there's a very narrow scope for those different kinds of things. Um, there's social. This is helping people, providing services, care, that kind of thing. What I do would fall under social. Um, in the Imperium, most of this is medical. And most of the medical occupations are related to military. Um, there are also some care aspects that are handled by members of the religious clergy, so people who provided a kind of counseling by religious figures, which is generally limited to uh, have faith in the emperor, which I don't think everyone finds as fulfilling an answer to the specific needs that they have at a specific moment in time. There's also enterprising. So this is for entrepreneurial individuals who might want to start a business, who are kind of the big movers and shakers, political figures, those kind of things. And that's pretty much reserved for the small ruling class, dynastic rogue traders as well. Now, the other big type of work is conventional, which is data analysis, data input, logistics, um, and basically bureaucratic work, and that's the other dominant occupational environment for imperial citizens. And we really want to break you out of that. All right, so we have a a call in. We have a Charlie Eddie Elliott on the line. All right, Charlie, go ahead.
I is a orc, and I wanna be a anger management guy.
Well, I think that so you want to be involved, Mr. Orc, in the social services, and I don't think there's a lot of opportunity among the orcs to really fulfill that. I mean, there's a lot of need for it. There's a lot of orcish anger, so I think you have a really nice market for that service. But I think you might end up receiving a punch to the mouth or a choppa to the head if you try to ply your wares. Um, from what I've seen, the most effective method of orc anger management is a sharp blow to the head, enough concussive force. This is often administered by mad docs, and they use it in place of anesthesia. But if a sharp enough blow to the orcish head, to the orcish skull, really seems to calm them down, really brings them to a lower level of aggression. And I think that's probably where you're gonna be able to be useful. I would recommend approaching a war boss, offering your services, and then when any of the boys get uppity, um, and maybe want to jump the gun before the war is going to happen, or where you're going to spring the big ambush, you give them a good blow to the head, and that'll calm them down, reduce anger levels pretty efficiently. So thank you, Charlie Elliott. That's I would like to know a little bit more about your situation, but those would be the things I would be thinking about if I was in your position, being an orc, seeking to go into anger management. So thank you again, Charlie, for your call, and best luck to all of you. So another thing that we want to consider as we are exploring our different. For those of you who've just arrived, we are discussing different career options here in the galaxy, and really find ways for people to um, feel more satisfied in their work. Now, if you have other problems, I'm certainly willing to discuss any issues that you might really have a need to have addressed. And if you would like to have your issues addressed just as Charlie Elliott did, um, then we just ask that you give a small donation, and we'll take your call live on the air. So, uh, the whole of career counseling in the Milky Way galaxy is not as simple as just um, matching your personality type to the right type of occupation. Um, we also need to be aware that things change as we go through our developmental life stages. As we age, our wants change, our needs change, our values change as we learn more and grow into the fullness of the wonderful beings that we are. So, in the Imperium, um, I believe the current practice, as people go through their working careers, is to force people to work and to be as productive as possible, usually work themselves to death, and then have their corpses reconstituted into rations. And I don't want to come across as judgmental, and that is a way to handle career progression. But in the Tau Empire, we do prefer to develop career paths that allow you to grow and develop and gain experience so that you can move on to more rewarding and appropriate positions as you are ready to retire. And I don't believe that retirement is typical in the Imperium. Um, I think it's actually more common for people to end up entombed in dreadnoughts than there are people who actually are permitted to retire. So that's another thing that you wanna consider, is to consider, and there's also other things to consider too, and we'll get into those in a moment. Let's take a look at what everyone has to say. Kill the Tau. I don't think that's a very productive attitude to come into this space and start addressing your problems. I think that's a very hostile attitude to take. Um, there's an agreement. Yes, well said. I would disagree. I would respectfully disagree. Um, I'll be listening as I physically melt from overheating. That sounds like that could be an occupational problem, dealing with overheating work environments, not being provide proper cooling or liquids to replenish what's going on. Praise the Emperor. Thinky Boy tasks and Orcish tasks way uh, way simpler than these. The orcs do. That's actually a good point to bring up. Is that orcs have created a society with a great deal of workers of occupational satisfaction, at least among the orcs. From what I understand, uh, grots and snotlings have a job satisfaction of roughly 0%, give or take about 0.1% is the margin of error in the research that I've done. But for the orcs themselves, they have a great deal of satisfaction in killing or building, and that comes from the fact that orcs are genetically designed creatures that have their own occupations sort of built into their genetic makeup. That's why you have the odd boys who act as mechs, act as crude surgeons, act as pretty much any task, brewers, any different kind of task that the orcs might have that need to be provided. This is sort of genetically in their genetic makeup, and most other orcs are satisfied to simply fight, which doesn't really help the rest of us. But the orcs have been facing um, an interesting challenge. Um, because our one of the people who's been mentioning, they did mention De Emperor, and I have heard a little bit about Deperium. They're a long, long ways from the Empire in my own sept of Ormuz, uh, but we the orcs are now having to deal with a career counseling kind of situation when it comes to job placement for humans that exist in the orc empire, the orc Deperium, as I believe it's called. And maybe I can help bring about some improvements in working conditions for the humans that are there. And I think one of the biggest uh, things that you can do to improve your employment station is really pursue specialized training in fields that are highly desirable, that not a lot of people are able to do. Now, this is not easy. If it was easy, a lot of people would be entering into these kind of occupations. Now, I do believe that the Imperium does have the Schola Progenium, which does train for people who are going into high-ranking military occupations, commissars, sisters of battle, high-ranking political figures, members of the all different sorts of occupations with very specialized needs. But there's so few people that enter into Scala, and I do believe there's a great need for a variety of things in the Imperium, but there's not enough services that are providing the kind of training that is really going to um, elevate the career aspirations of most citizens, and make different opportunities come open to them. And we really want to know, we really want are exploring different ways to make living in the Tau Empire to be much more satisfying. And I have a bit. There's a couple people here who are mentioning the Farsight enclaves, and I know might be coming across as a bit of an ogre here, a little bit of a browbeater, but we're not going to talk about or discuss um, the Farsight enclaves. There's a lot of negativity there. There's a lot of separation issues, um, and I think there's a lot of people listening to the Kayvon Jones show who might have some very negative feelings about the Farsight Enclave. So we're gonna that's as far as I'm going to address it, and we're gonna focus on making really bringing your career dreams to fruition through positive thinking, and through really taking the opportunities that we have, and making the best out of them. Uh, how can I persuade my Eldar and Imperial friends to join the greater good? Also, what are your views on Oshava? Um, I think one of the best ways to um, I think one of the best ways to convince people to follow the greater good is simply by living by the greater good. Uh, I know that the Imperium is very well invested in propaganda, and that there's a lot of indoctrination and religious mantras and sort of repeating messaging that is very easy to absorb, and appeals to um, the simplest and tiniest of minds in the Imperium. And not to say that we do not have our own positive messaging, that we don't have our own branding. But I think the greatest advantage of the greater good is the way to convince people is to uh, live by the greater good and demonstrate uh, the advantages of living in a cooperative galaxy as opposed to living in a fragmented, war torn galaxy that is spiraling towards inevitable doom. I just don't. I know some people really are invested in existing in a hopeless reality that's spiraling towards inevitable annihilation. But I think that people live a much more satisfying life if they're cooperative, if they're pro-social, if they work together, um, and they don't turn the planets that they occupy into dead planets that have been stripped of all life, or industrial wastelands that are covered in an atmosphere of toxic soup, or turning the planets that they occupy into a literal hellscape. Um, and I think there are some races that can really turn to a much more positive way of living. Um, and I think there are different races that can do that, but I think they're going to be able to fulfill their goals more thoroughly within the open embrace of the greater good. All right, it seems like we have a few more people here. We have 17. That's good. It's good that we have open minds who are eager to receive the message of the greater good and look to ways they can improve their situation. So I do invite people to be able to call in. As I said, please, if you decide to call in, we do ask that you give a small donation, and we will take your call live on the air and answer your questions to the very best of our ability. I have a question here. What species or factions are too violent for the greater good? We have not had any pro-social outcomes uh, interacting with the ruinous powers. Uh, when you're dealing with a faction that is fed on the negative emotions of sentient beings, um, encouraging self-destructive behavior, tumultuous emotions. Um, they prey kind of on the fears and worst impulses of the sentient beings in the galaxy. You don't end up with factions that you can negotiate with, especially given the corruptive nature of the ruinous powers. Orcs, there's nothing really to do with the Begel. They are violent and destructive, and that's the way they're designed to be. And the old ones are the ones who engineered them, who made them the way they are. And there's not, excuse me, there's not a good way to remove that. We're talking about the efforts of beings that were above and beyond the comprehension of modern races. No one's quite ever been able to reach the heights that the old ones have. Um, I think Necrons it's very difficult to deal with, but I think there are individuals that we can contact. We haven't had much positive response with convincing Necrons to join the greater good. They seem to think that their power, their military might, their advanced technology is sufficient for them to continue to exist as they see fit in the galaxy. Uh, but I think the Necrons in the Necron tier, I think if you look at the history, I think they're very they're living in a very unhappy existence. And if there is a species in this galaxy that really needs access to better mental health services, it would be the Necrons, especially given the plague of madness keeping your mind in a healthy shape for millions of years is very difficult, and I would encourage Necrons to really consider uh, taking the greater good a little bit more seriously and taking advantage of some of the services that we could offer for them. Humans, obviously, we have plenty of humans that are happy members of the greater good. Um, they have been kind of the most receptive species to the greater good. In some ways, they've been disruptive because humans, just like before the Tau, before the coming of the Ethereals, were a warlike people who were constantly fighting. Um, I think that humans are currently in a place that the Tau were in the past, and I think with enough guidance that humans will be able to um, reach the point that we have in fairly quick succession. We were able to advance very quickly with the coming of the ethereal, such as myself. Um, okay, so that's as far as the Eldar are concerned. They're a similar situation to the Necrons. They're very old. Many many Eldar that are alive right now are older than our entire civilization, and so it's actually something that is true of being a counselor. Is people do not trust your experience if you're younger. They want to hear the correct. It doesn't matter what you're saying if it's correct. What they want to hear is they want to hear the correct thing from someone who they believe has experienced life to the same width, breadth, and depth that they have. Um, so they're going to be difficult, and but they also have a great need. They have a very powerful need to survive. Um, they have a powerful need to. I think there are Eldar that could cooperate with us, but they're dealing with a lot of trauma. They have a lot of trust issues. They have very much turned inward in the case of the Craft World Eldar, and as far as the Drukari, the Dark Eldar go, well, we've tried to work with them in the past, and it hasn't had the best outcomes. So uh, we do not deal with them. Let's see. Is there anyone else? Anyone else that I've forgotten? No, I don't think I need to explain why the Tyranids are not species that we really want to work with. And I think there's a lot of other. If your goal as a species is to eliminate all life and consume it from the galaxy, I don't think there's a place for the greater good in by maintaining a position of just wholesale slaughter. I got a call in from Lamenter Chapter Master. Welcome. Sure, go ahead and speak your piece.
I will say it. The Enclave is far more successful.
Um, that seems to be a perception, but I've said it before, Chapter Master, but we're not discussing the Enclave on this Voxcast. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of difficulty that's being experienced within the Empire regarding the Farside Enclaves, and it's a process. There's a healing that needs to happen before I think we're really able to address that particular issue. So I do, I do thank you. All right, so I'm gonna take a look and see. We're gonna move on. See what else we can. What else we can. We have. All right. Greetings, Kevon Jones. As an aspiring artist, what's your insight on the path of becoming um, a propaganda artist, especially in the niche of creating pinups targeting Guevesa? Okay. Well. I let's see if I can be delicate about this, but I would definitely. do your research on the features that Guevesa uh, find to be appealing, and model your pinups, as you call them, after the features that Guevesa find appealing. There are plenty of Guevesa in the Tau Empire that you can probably contact and see if they'd be willing uh, to participate in such a thing, to model for that. I would contact your local ethereal, and probably not go that high. Probably you can contact uh, the fire warriors or whoever's in command, and coordinate with the propaganda wings of uh, that exist there, and can really help you do that. I do know that some Guevesa are particularly interested in the form of female Tau, and if I think that's another niche that could also appeal as well. Um, I know some people depict Tau females in a manner that is not accurate, but is more appealing to Guevesa taste. I would discourage that because it creates disappointment when they actually arrive. Um, Again, I think the best argument for the greater good is the self-evident success of the greater good in this galaxy. All right, let's take a look. Um, Farside enclaves are Tau heretics. Yes, yes. I'm not. I won't continue to discuss that in particular. Um, what are my thoughts on the Jokero? I haven't encountered them very much. Um, they're an ancient species, and similar to the Necrons, they're very technologically advanced. They're not quite as successful as the other major races. There's not very many of them left. Um, I don't know if there are any that have um, joined the greater good. I'm not aware of any. But I do think that there is a great deal of potential, and having the Jokaro join the greater good, we certainly could use their scientific minds. I would be a little worried because they are an old one designed race. So if there are difficulties, if there are parts of their makeup that are not um, that don't complement the greater good well, that's going to be a challenge that we're going to have to overcome. Because if there's something about them that we can't change, or that they can't adjust to because of the way they're made, uh, that can be a challenge. This is something we need to be aware of. I certainly think that Jokaro are could be a fine addition to the greater good. So, um, let's see. Are Tau historian aware of the evolution of the Tau species? They have hooves. So, do they originate from bovines? Um, a lot of the information about our long past is we don't have. Uh, we actually, one of the resources that we have about our own species is research that the Imperium itself did. We don't have a whole lot of written documents before a certain point, and we weren't really a species that kind of recorded our own history. Now we're kind of going back and examining our origins, um, but from what whereas I believe that the Guevesa evolved they evolved from their common ancestor with current uh, hominids and apes and things like that, goes back to they evolved from mammals. They warm blooded. From what I understand, uh, the from what I understand, the scientists have talked to me about is the common ancestor of the Tau was more aquatic in origin. Um, However, our biology is very different from that of the Guevesa, and I am not a biologist. I can't speak expertly uh, on our biology. So that might be a thing to do, though, is to see if I can get someone else on to discuss if that's something you're interested in is in tau biology. So, but thank you for the question. Um, Take a look. Would tau be bovines? I don't think so. I doubt that is our background. From what I understand, bovine creatures are um, they're aggressive. They're not very intelligent. They're herd animals. And from what I understand, I don't think there's been a species that evolved from them. I do know that there are beastmen that have bovid and caprine features, goats uh, and cows essentially. Um, but I think that mutation that was an offshoot from humanity. That wasn't they didn't evolve from uh, bovines themselves, even though they have bovine features, um, or caprine in some cases. So, but I don't know how that I don't that doesn't really make any sense why human beings would evolve the features of a different species that split off from them a long time ago. That doesn't seem the more we research biology this galaxy, the less it seems to make sense. And I think a lot of that has to do with the influence um, of the ruinous powers on mutation and how species develop, which just doesn't follow any kind of scientific reason. Um, and it's an interesting idea, but I don't think so. I think we are more aquan in origin than we are bovine. I don't think we were ever. Maybe we were herd creatures back in the day, but I'd have to do research on that. I can't speak further. I'd just be speculating. Okay, so another thing that I'm gonna move forward a little bit again on career opportunities. And again, if you would like me to address a specific issue, the topic today is careers. But if you have another question, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Just like I said last time, I'm here to help you turn your stop opportunities into opportunities. That's what we're here. We're gonna turn things right around and really try to work towards a more pro-social, positive-minded galaxy. Okay. So one of the things that you want to consider when you are going into a career, and it's something to be aware of, that how did I gain my profession? Um, I gained my profession because I'm an ethereal, and this was my interest, and I sort of have the authority to pursue what I want. Um, and this was not just a decision by me. I consulted with the other ethereals, and we thought that being an intergalactic therapist or counselor could be very positive for the greater good, could help bring more people into the fold of the greater good. Um, Tau are born into caste. How are aliens assigned to them? Is there some sort of test? This is what I've been talking about is especially humans. The abilities of humans are vary wildly, and I think that's a big source of human dissatisfaction. Is there's not an obvious if you're born into the fire caste, you go become a warrior. If you're born into the water caste, you go become a merchant. There's if you're air caste, you're a pilot, and et cetera, et cetera. Um, but when it comes to humans, their 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 proclivities are not obvious. They're formed by experiences, by the training they've received, by their class, by what planet they were born on, by what their social interactions are, what their friends value, what is considered high status. There are so many factors for humans when it comes to finding an appropriate occupation for them, and this is what we usually apply um, to alien races. Is we want to find where they fit best within the greater good, and basically a lot of what they end up doing is they kind of operate somewhat semi-autonomously, as long as they're not disruptive to the needs of the greater good and are able to provide in whatever way. We found that by and large part, different alien races don't need to be they don't need to be square pegs that are forced into round holes. We don't need to shove them into these particular roles, which we had to learn the hard way. We had to learn that other races didn't operate the same way we did, and that's a learning experience. There are growing pains. There's a lot of growing pains that are going on in the Empire right now. Um, so we really need to find the best way to do that. And that's part of why I'm doing the research that I'm doing. Um, Someone's calling me a hypocrite. One with unlimited authority telling a species without any authority about exploring their interests when they cannot do this fully. Um, well, I think that I don't think that you can do it if you're in the Imperium. I think people who are born into the Imperium are extremely restricted, based on where they are in their lives. And there are restrictions that are not imposed by governments, such as like if your family doesn't approve of something you're really interested in, that can be a pressure. But I think that's a great way of bringing up the value of the greater good, that you do have more opportunities to fulfill your career ambitions if you open your heart to the greater good, and help join a cooperative, pro-social empire that really cares about what's good for the most people. So no, neither can a Firecast choose diplomatic career. No, they can't. But that's just not what they're born into. Um, we have roles that we have ingrained in different body types, different abilities. There's some Certainly people can develop talents within the different castes, and they can rise and fall based on those abilities. Uh, but that's just the nature of our species, is we have roles that kind of exist already, that are built into how we exist as a species. Um, I hate to compare ourselves to the orcs, but there are some theories that we are a genetically modified species, that we have been designed. And some people say that the ethereals did that. I can't speak to that. I was not. I'm a relatively young ethereal. I would have not been. I can't speak to the origins of the empire, nor can I speak to the biology of the species. So here is a joke: the greater good. That is a pretty good joke, because I do believe that's a homonym, a word that sounds like another word. Um, what is greater? Grater is the little metal thing that you use to shred cheese, I believe. Yes, the greater good, but it sounds like the greater good. That isn't a bad joke. That's a pun. Yes, that's a pun. I think that you might have a bright future in telling, bringing humor into the galaxy. So you're having some very clever play on words there. Um, I think everyone here has found that very amusing. I think everyone here would be supportive of 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 that career. So perhaps what do the humans call, what do the Guevesa call it? Um, Being a clown. Perhaps you could be a clown. But I definitely want to encourage you to uh, to pursue your passions, and I'd love for you to do that within the greater good as well. A query. I require information about religious inclusivity. Is the worship of the Omnisci allowed in the Farsight Enclave's cybernetic implants subsidized in the taxation system? Um, I can't. I'm not going to speak on the Farsight Enclaves. I do not know what their policies are. I don't care to discuss them. It's a very tender subject right now. Um, what I can talk about religious inclusivity in the greater good. You can hold whatever religious beliefs you wish and practice however way you wish, as long as you are not worshiping the ruinous powers, or that the observance of your religion requires you to bring harm to members of the greater good, or can cause. Basically, you can't do illegal things in while worshiping your deity of choice. People are certainly welcome to continue to uh, worship the emperor. I think that has caused some problems that we have allowed, because it stirs up. I think the religious caste among humans has a tendency to rile people up with religious rhetoric, and there have been a number of rebellions that have been tied to Guevesa religions, and I think that was actually a problem that uh, your emperor experienced and tried to wipe out all religions. We're going to try a different method and see if we can figure out a way of peacefully coexisting with different religions. All right, Lamentor Chapter Master, calling back in again. Welcome to have you back.
Although I believe that all Xenos races are heresy, I will say that enslavement is a far greater heresy. That is why the Enclave has honor. You do not.
Well, I wouldn't call. We're throwing the term slavery around, and I don't know if someone from the Imperium has a great uh, base to stand on to criticize other people's or accuse them of practicing slavery when slavery is ubiquitous throughout the Imperium, and as long as my understanding is, as long as the Imperium receives their tithes, they don't really care what happens on the planets, or how they're run, or what the laws are, or the well-being of the people in general. So, to I would say that if you look at the examples of what quote slavery is, I think if you take the sum total of the hard choices that the Tau Empire has had to make in the face of rebellion, in the face of outright war, in the face of a lot of difficult choices, I think if you took the worst things the Tau Empire has done and you just picked, let's just say, conversion to servitors, I think lobotomizing people, filling them with cybernetics, and making them mindless drones, a process with which not everyone loses their sense of self. Some people are horribly mentally tormented in these cybernetic bodies, but they're unable to disobey the commands that are input into their bodies. Uh, that's that's much worse than anything. And I just picked one thing that the Imperium does out of the hat. Are we perfect? No, but I think it is better to embrace the the idea of the greater good and pursue it to the best of our ability. So that would be, yes, the Imperium openly enslaves its own kind. I don't. I genuinely believe that Guevesa in the Tau Empire have a great deal more freedom than they do in the Imperium. All right, all right. Oh, I was just about to say that. Thank you, nice blue man. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Um, I think there's been a lot of accusations thrown at the Tau Empire, and I wasn't really planning on going through a large defense of the entire history of the Tau Empire. I'm sure if we went through um, pretty much a single campaign that the Imperium has gone through, I think you could probably find more human suffering in one campaign of the Imperium than you can in the entire history of the Tau Empire. Um, but I do actually have a fair bit of respect to the Lamenters because you much more than most other Imperial entities do have some care for the well-being and happiness of your citizenry, which I would hold up as a tenet that it is an important part of um, the greater good. And I think you're closer to the greater good than a lot of your brethren. Um, and I know that you have been indoctrinated and trained, and you have your holy scriptures. Um, and I think your initial response to being approached about being part of the greater good is to deny and to push away. So I'm not going to make overtures to you. You're going to make your own choices about that. And nothing I say is going to change that. But I do think that you are operating under a lot of misgivings that the the sum total of the history of every bad thing that the Tau Empire has ever done is kind of a sleepy Tuesday for the Imperium. Um, some of that is because the Imperium's much larger, but I think it's also not very well run, and there's a lot of internal strife. For we have the Farsight enclaves. The Imperium has rebellions all the time for every reason. All right, we got another question. Excuse me, I don't know what's causing me so much trouble this day. Um, Dr. Jones, how do I explain to my Drukari mistress that I do not wish to be turned into a hulking rage beast to fight in the fight pits? Well, um, one of the things I think really ought to be addressed is the working conditions in Komara, and that Komara is actually the only place I think in the galaxy where there is a nearly 0% satisfaction rate when it comes to employment. I think the only individuals who are actually satisfied with their work are the homunculi, and perhaps Astrobial Vect himself. I don't think anyone else is happy, whether they are Drukari or whether they are one of the slave races. Okay, so let's address your. I got a little distracted, so I want to address your question. Um, my suggestion um would be to I would advocate for yourself. It depends on what other skills you have. If you can convince her that you would be better suited to do a different occupation, that might be your best. That might be your best bet. If you don't have any skills and her plan is just to hand you over to the homunculus to have you turned into a rack or a grotesque, then I don't think there's going to be much convincing. But if there's something that you're good at and there's something that she needs done, um, hopefully you can provide that service to her, and that would be more advantageous to her and more valuable than if you were to be tortured and mutilated until you became a hulking rage monster for the fight pits. So, best of luck to you. Keep a positive attitude. And if you do end up finding yourself in the fight pits, there's still value in taking pride in your work, even when it's not the most satisfying work that you could have. All right. Question was, would the process of making an Astartes be allowed in the Tau Empire? Um, I'm going to be honest here. This is my personal opinion. I'd have to consult with the other ethereals um, and really consider and take that into consideration. But I don't think that making Space Marines is a very efficient use of resources because it takes a great deal of long time. It's a lot of training, and you end up with an experienced warrior that can do a lot of things. But the Imperium is only able to produce and maintain about 1 million Space Marines when they have about 1 million worlds, and one Space Marine is generally not sufficient to. If you assign one Space Marine to each world, it's not going to be sufficient to repel large invasions and that sort of thing. It's a lot of energy, it's a lot of resources, it's a lot of expensive technology. When I think um, developing equipment or weapons that are able to hit and strike an enemy from a long distance away and and very accurately is going to be much more useful than a really big human that has a lot of enhanced qualities but is, if you're, it doesn't matter if you're a space marine or a if you're a space marine or if you're a regular human, you're not going to survive being hit with a plasma uh, being hit with a plasma cannon. uh, I think there's an overemphasis uh, on being big. The Space Marines seem to be more of a symbol than they are. Not that they aren't a capable fighting unit. They have a lot of experience. They have and very impressive generals, very impressive tacticians. They are the best of the best. But I think those resources could still be put to more efficient use. So I wouldn't say that we wouldn't allow it to happen if it's found to be that's a more efficient use of resources. Um, but there's a lot of infrastructure that would need to be put in place in order to support uh, Astartes that were within the greater good that operated within the Tau Empire. Because we'd have to have gene seeds. We'd have to make sure that they hadn't been corrupted. We'd have to make sure that we were dealing with gene seeds that hadn't had adverse mutations, which most of them have. Um, we would need to have apothecaries and people that would be able to take care of these things and implant them and training. There'd be a lot of stuff that we would need to do um, in order to support that in particular. Okay, all right. So we have a call. We have Necro King Derek. Um, all right, Necro King, go ahead and let's hear what you have to say.
What are your thoughts on Warp Spawn? Like the cute little nurglings.
Oh, oh my. There are already flies starting to fill the studio. We're gonna get some people down here to disinfect this right now. I think I've made it clear earlier, but I don't know who's been here and how long everyone's been here. But um, we here in the Tau Empire do not find that warp entities are generally particularly positive, especially not from the four main chaos entities. Now, there has been stories um, that now the Tau, we do not have a very strong presence in the warp. We don't produce a lot of psychic. We don't have much psychic ability, but we do have member races that whose belief in the greater good caused, from some reports, caused a greater good uh, being to manifest in the warp. And if this being is a manifestation. It's a true manifestation of what the greater good stands for, and it's not like a corruption of that idea. Um, that it's possible that entities in the warp could become something positive, but right now everything's too dangerous. And I think that's a goal for the greater good. If we have a galaxy where everyone is cooperating, um, and people are at peace, and the mental health needs of people are being served, then you're not having all of this tumultuous psychic suffering and tumult pouring into the warp to create all of this horrible hellscape monsters that come forth. All right, so uh, given orcs are happier than us and can procreate faster than us, should we start giving worlds to the orcs so the net happiness of the universe increases for the greater good? Well, see, the thing about orcs is they thrive on conflict, and they can be satisfied with just conflict for themselves, but uh, we're not orcs, and um, we can't. There's no way for us to achieve happiness through combat, because that's not how our species reproduces. That's not how um, a, a net happiness for a race that was designed to be a weapon is probably not a top priority for the greater good. All right, we have the Lamenter chapter master coming back on.
Now, I'm going to end you with Enclave help, Dick.
We want to keep language to well, it's unfortunate that you feel that way. Uh, I wish you the very best. I think it's unfortunate that you have allied yourself um, with violent renegades, and that you uh, value uh, the rotting edifice of your imperium more than a spirit of cooperation and positivity that can really bring this galaxy into a new dawn. Anyway, we'll keep going on. So, do we have any more questions? I trust you will execute the Enclave assistance. Oh, this is just asking about the. I'm going to see if anyone has any real questions, because these are not real questions. Mr. Jones, what is your stance on including Psykers under the Tau Empire? I've talked about this before, um, and Psykers are sort of a difficult thing for us to deal with because we don't have a history of dealing with Psykers. The Tau are not naturally inclined towards being psychic. We do not have very strong presences in the warp. Um, but Guevesa and Eldar and different species have much stronger souls, I believe you call them, and Psykers can really utilize the warp to astounding levels, and there's a great deal of danger in having Psykers in our territories because we're not necessarily prepared to deal with them. Um, in the Imperium, Psykers, they get put on the black ships. They get sent off to either be consumed in the hellish landscape that is the urban nightmare that is Terra, um, and are consumed by the Emperor, or they are sent to locations to train and hone their skills. You all have technology that helps control psychic abilities, psychic hoods, I believe they're called. Um, and I think we need to implement more careful controls um, of managing psychers to limit demonic incursion and other risks that come with having psychers. So it's something that we're going to be working on. We have Old Man Skeletal coming in. Um, with his own call. So go ahead.
So, I have been working as a farm cron. It ain't much, but it's honest work. Pharaon needs peanuts for his addiction. Any advice for helping old folk out of a peanut butter obsession? Much obliged.
All right. Okay. So what I'm sort of reading into this a little bit, but I think what it seems like is you're not incredibly satisfied with being a peanut farmer, and if your Faerun kind of stopped their peanut obsession, um, they might be able to. Well, we then you might be able to find a more satisfying occupation. Well, I would recommend that your Faerun can seek me out. You certainly have my contact information. You can reach me whenever you like, and I would be happy to refer your Faerun to. Um, we have some substance abuse clinics, and I don't know if we've had so much uh, interaction with peanut addiction, but I think they still might be able to help a little bit. And I think that's going to be a good path to go on. Um, and we'd really like to probably dig into uh, why they're fixated on peanuts. And that's something I've said before is the importance of being able to provide Necrons with mental health services because with their souls gone, with their physical bodies gone, most of their needs are not there anymore. The only thing that's really left of them from when they were Necron tier are their minds, and they're sadly very, very much an underserviced population. And we'd like to start helping the Necrons undo the eons of trauma that they've experienced and inflicted on other people. There's probably a lot of guilt in there too. Or if they start, recovering their minds a little bit, they might start feeling guilt. So there's a lot to do, but that I think that's a start. Okay. Hello, Kevon, and greetings to your family. My dream is to become commander in an XV-88 battleship, but there hasn't been one in Tau history. As an ethereal, is my dream possible? I think one of the things that I would say, um, a lot of people will say, reach for your dreams. Every dream is possible, and I would say that is absolutely true. Every dream is possible. You can look through the galactic histories among the Tau, among the Gavesa, among the Eldar, among all any species in this galaxy. You can look to extraordinary individuals who, out of really, were able to take their circumstances and become something incredible. Uh, but what people don't make clear is that there's a great deal of sacrifice and suffering and hard work that goes in, and try again, that kind of goes along with these kind of these kinds of goals. So if you're looking to be a commander of an XV-88 battleship, there hasn't been one in Tau history. Um, if you were somehow able to acquire an XV-88 battleship and join the Tau Empire, we would certainly be happy to have you on as part of as one of our Guevesa auxiliaries. And if you were to bring that battleship to bear, we would happily do that. So I would start looking, and if that's really what your dream is, you need to start looking at different avenues of how to accomplish that. So thank you for your question. Are there any job opportunities for a skilled cyberneticist with a good track record with communication with machine spirits successfully? Is there a market for servo skulls? I think there's a lot of need for that in the Imperium. The religious practices of the Omnissiah are permitted, but we don't get a whole lot of tech priests joining the greater good. Frequently because our machines don't have machine spirits as far as I know. I think some of the I have met a few tech priests. We have a smattering of them in the Empire, but a lot of them insist that our weapons have machine spirits, and if that's part of their religion, I'm not going to deny their subjective reality. It seems very important to them, but um, I don't know if the Tau themselves have need of it. But we definitely have plenty of Guevesa communities who are more accustomed to operating in ways that are more familiar to them, like in the Imperium. So I think you definitely could find work there. If you're having trouble finding work in the Imperium, um, applying your wares as a cyberneticist, then I would recommend uh, joining the greater good, and we can definitely see what we can do about putting your skills to better purposes, and also if you're part of us, you certainly have access to superior technology than that which is available to the Imperium. So please take that into consideration. All right. Um, we have. It looks like we have an orc. How do I turn an internet's interest in paleontology into a career in a spacefaring economy? Um, it's very difficult. I think that's one of the challenges uh, for people to find ways of making one's interests monetarily viable. Because I think there are places for paleontology for xenopaleontology for finding ancient relics and things like that. I think that might be what you want to do is like there's a lot of people looking for ancient and valuable relics throughout the galaxy. I think what you do is you turn your interest in xenopaleontology or xenobiology and tie that into finding relics. So if you're digging in the ground looking for bones, um, you can also be looking for relics, and then use your relic finding to kind of fund your pursuit of this xenopaleontology. So that would be that's I think that's a way. All of my suggestions are just ways that you all can think about how you want to try to approach your career decisions here in the grim darkness of the far future. Um, there are definitely other options. I don't know everything about your circumstance, so all of my advice, take it with a grain of salt and use it as a springboard to think about where your situation is and what's best for you. So, as an Imperium civilian, my coworkers keep going on about how great the Tyranids are and how hungry they are. Is it normal for the is that normal for the Tau Empire? Is that normal, or is it just me? Oh, I think I understand what you're probably dealing with. What is known as a gene stealer infestation. Um, the Tyranids they have a species which is a gene stealer. They basically infect different species with genetic material that essentially makes human beings um, fall under the control of the hive mind, and they end up um, forming gene stealer cults that have Tyranid genetic material mixed in with them, and through subversive acts, kind of rot different civilizations from the ground up. So what I would recommend is don't wander off by yourself. Um, and stay in groups. And I would report those individuals to whatever authority you have on your planet, because it's likely that they're prepping your planet to be invaded by Tyranids and stripped of all biomass, and you will likely end up a protein slurry in a big digestion vat. So. Let's hope that doesn't happen and hope it's not too late. So good luck with the Tyranid invasion. Okay. Um, Mr. Jones, would you have any advice for a lowborn such as myself in opening their business, such as a game and hobby shop, And would you say that it is for the greater good? I think there's definitely a place for recreation in the galaxy. One of the important parts of supporting uh, good and healthy, good mental health is being able to positively recreate. And I think that is a perfectly plausible um, possible thing to do. It's just going to be a matter of where are you going to do it? What sort of games are you going to be playing? Are you going to be able to get a number of people who would be interested in doing that? Um, it would be so. The advice would be if you're lowborn, you probably don't have a lot of resources. You're probably going to need to take out a loan from someone at some point, or get someone who's going to patronize you to start this. And basically, I don't know what your financial situation is, but I would be very careful about how you go about supporting um, and starting this idea, because you want to have the best chance of success. Because if it doesn't succeed, I don't want you kind of stuck with a mountain of debt and then not be able to do anything else. So make sure you have your whole business plan, as much as you can prepare for. Be prepared, and then see if you can find patronage with a nice, good plan, because that's also going to make it more likely that you'll find a patron or someone willing to offer you a loan if you have a good plan in place of what you're going to do with your business. So, best of luck to you. Um, every dream is possible, even in the greater good wide galaxy. Um, Yes, I think anyone can accomplish things. I think the difficulty is not everyone can accomplish everything, because I think you'll find out that a lot of dreams kind of conflict with each other. If your goal is to be the fastest, a great athlete, be the greatest athlete, there can only be one greatest athlete in the galaxy. You're going to be the greatest hero. Well, there's only one greatest hero in the galaxy, and we all know that that's Nomanicus, Germanicus, Bananaphanopophanicus, me, Mimo, Manicus Primus. Um, just because an unfortunate fact of the galaxy. So there's some opportunities that you, by the competitive nature that they have, you can't. Um, and you also have biological limitations, but I think there's a lot more that people can accomplish than they're usually able to believe. Okay, let's take a look. What else do we have here? We're getting a little distracted. Do Tau use 3D printers, or do you need to buy from the store? Um, we have very sophisticated manufacturing. Um, by and large part, um, officials in capacity of the Tau Empire, we do not have to pay for most things. It's we're mostly allocating resources to other people. So I guess I'm a little confused by the question. The only answer I can come up with is we do have our own um, we do have our own manufacturing that can take care of that. All right. We have Lamenter Chapter Master coming online. He was very upset with me last time. I'm hoping he has come around to a more understanding position this time.
That Lancer online. Now, this is Chapter Master of the Lamenters. We have encountered a Uvath. Tell the Tau vessels to attack. It is a Uvath ship. I say, Uvath.
Um, well, that does sound very dangerous and very unfortunate. Uh, that they came across a very dangerous. That's very close to my sept. That Voxcast was made very close to my sept, so we will be sending. Uh, Uvoth are a chaos corrupted xeno species. There's not really a lot of ability to get them into compliance with the greater good. So While we've had our disagreements, Mr. Lamenter Chapter Master, I think that we're gonna probably send some resources to help that out because we really can't have the Uvoth running through my sept. We don't want them in the Ormuz sept. That's just a lot of problems. So maybe we have to cooperate. We have to cooperate, work together, and that is one of the precepts of the greater good. All right. I'll stop proselytizing. Uh, you have a fleet coming inbound, Lamented Chapter Master. We'll see what we can do together. Okay. We have a call from Rose Spark. Yes, I made it to the other side. You, you blue thing, tell how to convert the others to greater rat. All must know, great rat. Oh, I see. Well, I wouldn't be able to advocate for conversion to the great rat. I must admit, I don't know that much about the great rat. But if you wish to join the greater good, and your worship does not involve, digging massive burrows in the crust of our planets and digging out elaborate tunnel systems and breeding voraciously and then occasionally raiding the surface while also fighting endless wars of backstabbing duplicitousness between your own species. If you don't do those things, then I think there's a place for you in the greater good, as long as your worship of this great rat is within the bounds of the greater good. So thank you very much, Rose Spark. Uh, I'm glad that you've made it to the other side. Um, and as far as conversion, I think the best way to convince anyone of your ideas. There was someone when I was just a baby, little baby ethereal, little baby Kevon Jones. Um, One of the other ethereals told me that if you want people to be interested, be interesting. And so I've tried to bring that to the governance of my sept and to bringing others into the fold of the greater good. So I've got another question. Will the Tau invade us? Um, we prefer to not think of it. We prefer not to invade. Generally, we only invade and forcibly bring planets into compliance if they've been hostile to us and they've been continually hostile to us. Um, we prefer to to bring people into compliance via diplomatic means. So, if your planet is not hostile towards us, um, we would prefer that you join the greater good, but we prefer but we're not going to compel people to do it unless we have to. Unless you make yourself a problem, we would, if you insist on being separate from the greater good, we do, we're happy to also trade with you. And hopefully through our harmonious coexistence, maybe one day you'll be convinced. So, unless something's happened that I don't know about, we're not planning on invading you. That's not the Tau military doctrine. We don't invade and compel people to join the greater good. Again, unless a planet is too aggressive and we have to is repeatedly and too aggressive, and there's just nothing we can do except go and assert Tau control and hopefully um, eliminate the threat to the planet in that manner. Okay. All right, we're kind of getting close to the end. We certainly can take more calls if people would like to donate again. We've had a lot of Lamenter Chapter Master has we've had our problems. I hope things are going well with the fight with the Uvoth. Where the Tau fleet should be incoming and offering what support we can. All right, we got to go some more questions. Blue Boy Kelwin, I is a really good mech boy. Can I get a job fixing your beautiful zappy dakas? Um, ooh, I got to get me mitts on dat. Um, well, as I sort of said, orcs are the they're maybe there's been another and different development because the Duperium orcs seem to be an unusually cooperative group. Blood axes have also seemed to be much more reliable mercenaries, but there's not very many of them. Um, the, the issue is that we'd like to have everyone be cooperative, but we haven't been able to find orcs that are able to operate within the confines of the greater good because they seek violence so much. Um, I'm not saying it's impossible. Nothing's impossible, but I think you're going to have to go the extra mile if you want to offer your mechanical skills to the greater good. But I do wish you good luck. Lamenter Chapter Master is coming back on the line. Let's see what we have here. Tau dead. Humans die and flee. Your fleet will die next. You will be new slaves. Long live the new Yuvath Empire. Um, well, new Yuvath, I think you greatly underestimate the military might of my sept. Um, I think that you are going to be utterly destroyed in the service of creating uh, a new and better, greater good. Um, and I'm very confident that I can make these threats from the comfort of my studio. Um, and we will bring the math, the math. It's tripping over my words. I'm going to bring the wrath and fury of the Tau Empire upon your heads, and um, we're going to be firing things at you at speeds that will cause your skin to really implode on itself and kind of destroy all of your internal organs. So you will be utterly annihilated for killing my people and threatening the empire. You will be utterly annihilated. Okay, all right. Rose Spark coming back in. Uh, Go ahead, go ahead.
Give what we want. Warren will work for your greater rat. Warpstone, pointy ear things have red stones. Give, and won't backstab.
Well, look, Rose Spark. All right. How about this? We have some planets on the outskirts of the Empire that are very difficult um, to colonize. I understand that your people are very resilient. Um, why don't we're willing to give you sanctuary on these planets. Now they are dangerous, but I think um, you with your burrowing, you're actually going to be able to survive and avoid a lot of the dangerous weather that's on these planets. Um, and we'd be willing to kind of give you a trial run and see how well you operate within the greater good, and allow us to you'll be able to operate pretty semi-autonomously, um, and we'll see how well uh, things work out from there. We want to be a little bit more cautious with how things work, but I think this is something we can work out. So Rose Spark, I will keep in contact with you, and we'll see if we can make this if we can work this out for you. Okay. Mr. Jones, what are jobs and quality of life on mining stations? We have mining is always difficult. I think it's any physical labor has a great deal hardship associated with it. But I think we have much more sophisticated mining techniques than the Imperium, and we're a lot less damaging to the surrounding environment. So I think if that's what you're interested in, we definitely have space for that. Oh, we got another question about the Farsight Enclave. What is your opinion of the Farsight Enclave? I believe this question might hurt the feelings of the people of the Empire, which I refuse to apologize for. Well, it seems like we have someone from the Farsight Enclaves, and in my opinion, if they have chosen to separate themselves from the Empire, I don't think that there is much call for them to make contact back. If you are gone, then you're gone. And don't come crying to us when your terrible idea blows up in your face. Okay, let's move on. All right, I think we're getting just about to the end. If anyone has any last second questions, I could certainly answer them. If not, I think we can move on to final thoughts, and I'll start my final thoughts, and then if anyone has any last second questions, I'll answer those. Okay, so when thinking about career aspirations in the grimdark future, I would recommend being aware of your personality type, which we went over before. Make sure that your interests match the work that you're doing. If you have a curious and scientific mind, I don't think you're going to be satisfied working as a laborer or a miner or working in a factorum or something like that. So make sure that you are in an occupation that matches your interest. If you are the sort of the other thing you want to make sure that you have a plan for where you want to go with your career as you age and plan out for retirement, and what you want to do at each stage of your life and where you want to be as far as employment goes. And sometimes things don't always go the right way. Sometimes you do have to figure when your needs change. Sometimes you do have to change your occupation. If you become seriously injured, maybe being a laborer suddenly isn't as much of an option for you. But maybe being a supervisor could still be possible. That's just some examples. And the last thing that you want to be aware of is you need to be aware of your relationships, of what's important to those around you. So maybe you want to, explore the galaxy, but your family doesn't want to come, or something like that. And there are people back at home that you're going to have to leave behind if you want to, go become a space explorer or something like that. Or if, let's say, it's not a question of like leaving. What if you have a mate, a spouse, and you want to go into politics, and your spouse is not interested in you going into politics, doesn't want to deal with a political life, and that can cause strife within your relationship. So that's going to be part of it. It's going to be pay attention to what your interests are, pay attention to your needs based on your life stage, and also be aware of how your work fits in with the rest of your relationships and how important all of this is for you. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank Lamentor Chapter Master. I do understand that we have some very nasty customers coming our way, and we will make sure that we deal with them in brutal and unflinching fashion. For the rest of you, be safe, and live and really work to be the best you that you can be. Okay. Hope to see you all as part of the greater good one day. I can always hope. But until then, best of luck to you, and good luck following your dreams. Kevon Jones is signing off.